Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Here's the video that you came here for. With that said, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into the games. Again, extended previews of all the big ones. And while there are a lot of very good games on the schedule, there is, in my opinion, only one place to start. It is beautiful South Bend, Indiana. And it is beautiful, by the way. I've driven through South Bend, been to the campus, all that good stuff, where Notre Dame and Ohio, I mean, that just sounds big, right? Ohio State, Notre Dame, and this year, this one is big. Two top 10 teams, two teams and two fan bases that I think legitimately have major aspirations. For Ohio State, it's national championship or bust every single year. Ryan Day says it all the time. But for Notre Dame, I think they really think they have something special brewing, and they have a national stage to show it this weekend. And I'll tell you, in the 4-team college football playoff era, that's what stands out to me. Next year, either of these teams could lose this game. You move on, you bounce back, you get ready for the rest of the season. This one, your back is going to be against the wall the rest of the season if you lose. So let's break it down. I should mention, by the way, Ohio State, a 3-point favorite in this one, the over-under at 55.5. And what's interesting to me, I want to start with Ohio State. And if you listen to the Aaron Torres pod, I think most people know I'm not a huge Ryan Day guy. And I'm not anti-Ryan Day. I'm not fire Ryan Day. I'm not he's on the hot seat. I'm not he's the worst coach ever. But I do think he inherited a very good situation from Urban Meyer. I do think it has trended in the wrong direction over the last couple years. And I do think in big games, in big moments, Ryan Day has a lot of stuff to answer. 2 straight losses to Michigan. Obviously, a year ago did perform well in the playoff, but this is kind of an important year and an important game for him. Why I bring it up, I've actually been very impressed early with Ohio State. Now, week 1, week 2, they're going through the quarterback stuff, but I will tell you, I watched a lot of that Western Kentucky game a week ago. And I know it's easy to say it's Western Kentucky. Who cares? Torres, don't overreact. I thought it was a complete effort from Ohio State. And I think this might be the most balanced Ohio State team that I have seen since 2019 when Justin Fields, Chase Young, all of those guys led Ohio State to the college football playoff. In terms of Ohio State, I think a couple things stood out watching them last week. First off, now that Kyle McCord is the starter, that's where the focus is, right? We know who the quarterback is. But what stood out to me, their star running back, TreVeyon Henderson, looks like the guy that he was 2 years ago, and their defense is really good. So TreVeyon Henderson, remember, 2 years ago, 1,200 yards rushing as a true freshman. He broke many of Maurice Claret's records, which shows you how good he was. Last year, he's in and out of the lineup all year with injuries, can't quite get right. Well, last week against Western Kentucky, that was the best performance that I have seen from him in a long time. 88 yards, 13 or so carries, about 6 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. He looks like that dude again. And then again, the defense I find to be very good. Now, you've played Indiana, you've played Youngstown State, and you've played Western Kentucky. At the same time, keep in mind, Western Kentucky is a real offense that moves the ball and has had great success passing the ball over the last couple years. So I bring it up to say they held Western Kentucky under 300 yards of total offense. And on the year, this is what you need to know about the Ohio State defense. Number 3 in the country in total defense. Number 2 in scoring defense. Number 7 in pass defense. So they have been very good early. Second year with the new coordinator, Jim Knowles. From the Notre Dame perspective, I think we know the narrative, right? Like, it's something we talked about all offseason. It's something we talked about in the preseason. If you remember, Sam Hartman was my preseason Heisman pick, and it was for the reasons that we are seeing now. Notre Dame, for years, we knew what Notre Dame was really for about the last decade. Once Brian Kelly really got it rolling in the early to mid part of the last decade. They're going to run the ball. They're going to have great offensive line play. They're going to play great defense, and they're going to win a lot of games. But in those elite games, in those elite moments, do they have the dudes on the outside? And do they have the quarterback? And they really haven't had that guy. No disrespect to Ian Book, no disrespect to Jack Cohn, all of those guys. They just haven't had that dude at quarterback. Well, they got him this year in Sam Hartman. Notre Dame played in week 0, so they have played 4 games, but through 4 games, 71% completion percentage for Sam Hartman, 10 TDs, 0 interceptions. The competition admittedly hasn't been great, but you could argue Hartman's best game was in the biggest moment so far. Go on the road, beat North Carolina State at North Carolina State. Sam Hartman, 4 touchdowns in that game. But I also think what's worth noting in this one is that it's also the run game has not suffered at all. 28th nationally in rushing, averaging over 200 yards per game for Notre Dame. So finally, the balance that we have been waiting for has arrived at Notre Dame. And I think it'll be fascinating to watch everything unfold on Saturday night. Now, what's interesting to me about this game, I actually think it is not going to play out the way that a lot of people think. I think everyone thinks, Ohio State, 1,000,000 points, Marvin Harrison Jr., all that good stuff. Something stands out to me watching college football this year is that, one, I do think that most coaches are not putting young quarterbacks in harm's way. In other words, you're on the road, play it conservative, even when you're at home, even when you don't have a young quarterback. If you don't have that dude, if you don't have Caleb Williams, Shedeur Sanders, Quinn Ewers, think about how Billy Napier used Graham Mertz last week. Think about how Nick Saban has tried to use his quarterbacks unsuccessfully. I bring it up because when I look at Ohio State, I could see the scenario where they really want to rely on the run game and the defense to win this game more than putting it all on Kyle McCord's shoulders. Now, if you're successful in the run game, you know what that opens up? The pass game, obviously. But I don't see this being the shootout that everybody expects it to be. A lot of money coming in on the over. I don't see that. I don't see like a 37-31 Sam Hartman duels the Ohio State offense. Marvin Harrison has 310 yards receiving. Like, that's not the game I see. I think it's more low scoring. I think both teams rely on their offensive line, their defenses in this game, especially Ohio State on the road, especially Ohio State with a quarterback in Kyle McCord that is admittedly making his 4th career start, but it's really basically the 2nd or 3rd when you factor in that he was splitting reps. Now, in terms of a pick for this game, one thing about the college football betting pod is, listen, we all love throwing a couple bucks on all these games, but I will always be honest and transparent with you. And if there is not a strong side that I feel about these games, I am not going to tell you, hey, I'm taking Notre Dame this, I'm taking Ohio State that. And this is one I actually don't have a strong opinion, and I will not be betting. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not the most fun conversation to have, but listen, I work hard for my money like everybody else. And when I look at this game, I could see it going so many different directions. I could see Ohio State's defense being phenomenal and elite, the team that I saw last week against Western Kentucky. Great guys on the defensive line, and the linebackers and defensive backs are very fast. That was what stood out to me. And I could see Notre Dame in a year where they haven't faced a lot of great defenses so far, especially pass defenses, really struggling with that. I could see Ohio State moving the ball. I could see Ohio State hitting Marvin Harrison with a couple big plays. And all of a sudden, a close game becomes one-sided because Marvin Harrison is Marvin freaking Harrison. And he has he takes a slant route, an 8-yard slant, 92 yards for a touchdown. So I could see that scenario. I could also see the scenario where Notre Dame, with the better quarterback, is able to move the ball on Ohio State, the best quarterback that Ohio State has certainly faced all year, and they're able to put up points. And Kyle McCord, the redshirt, I guess, sophomore quarterback, it's his 3rd year in the program, first major test. I could see the scenario where he struggles. I could see the scenario where they don't establish the run game. Notre Dame gets ahead and Notre Dame never falls behind. And so I could see a plethora of scenarios in this game. And because of it, I'm not going to bet it. If I gave you an unofficial pick, I'd lean Notre Dame. And it's for the simple fact of better quarterback, home environment. That's usually a pretty good side. Like if you have the better quarterback and you're at home and most of the rest of the talent is pretty even, it usually favors the team with the significantly better quarterback, at least at this point in their careers. So my unofficial pick, I'll say 31-28 Notre Dame. I don't feel great about it. I will not be betting it. I lean Notre Dame, but if Ohio State wins this game, it would not shock me. And by the way, again, I've been critical of Ryan Day, but if Ohio State loses this game, this isn't going to be the one where you tune into Monday's Aaron Torres pod and I'm shredding Ryan Day unless his team looks completely unprepared, whatever.